He was supposed to be one of the 11 starters back on their defense. It was a bit of a surprise to first see his name go into the portal, but the inside story is he wants to be an every down player. And apparently the planning was going to be for him to still be the guy that came off the field on third downs. And that wasn't going to sit well with him. They have some talent around him. They've got another veteran who opted to come back and play actually a 6th year because of the free year given this year. James Skalski, who probably would not have impacted Jones's playing time, but there are some others in the program that would have, that are either already in the program or will be coming. So talented player, missed a couple of games this year because of an injury. Didn't have huge tackle numbers. He did have a pick six, or a long interception return against Syracuse. A guy who I think still has more ceiling, but apparently got the message, from what I understand, that he probably was not going to be an every down player once again in the coming season. When they had a true freshman this year who came in and really started to fill that role very well, and through no fault of Mike's, he did have the injury, but versatile guy, and that kind of hybrid position. Picture a player who at times looks like he's a linebacker, at other times looks like he's a strong safety, and that's the kind of position. I think he could play just as effectively as an outside linebacker as he could as a strong safety or an inside linebacker. Very athletic, has very good speed. Clemson would have loved to have still had him in their program. And I would think you could consider that a loss. They've had 4 players now that saw or would have seen significant snaps again this coming season go into the transfer portal off their defense. 2 linemen, also Jones, and then also a kid named Yannity Williams, a cornerback who arrived as a 4-star but never really got traction at that position. But I would think of the 4 they lost, they would say Mike Jones is the one that probably impacts them the most. Once again, depending on what the philosophy is going to be moving forward with the LSU defense, he may not be required to be a hybrid guy. They may just want him as a traditional player, but he's the kind of guy. There was a player many years ago that folks who followed the NFL even down that way will remember. Thomas Davis played at Georgia. I don't know if Georgia and LSU would have played during Thomas Davis's time. And in college, Thomas Davis was pretty much a strong safety. And then when he got to the Panthers, they said, we really aren't sure what you are. Probably going to be a safety, then we might make you a linebacker. And of course, he eventually had an all-pro career as a linebacker. I could see Mike Jones potentially maybe being the reverse of that, maybe being a linebacker in college. We'll get to the NFL and they'll say, you could end up being a safety in our league. So I think he's kind of that middle guy. It could go either way in terms of his ultimate position eventually. But I would think LSU probably sees him as a linebacker first. That's just my opinion.
He obviously is a name that when you type it in Google, he's a guy who led his team this summer in some of the Black Lives Matter, in some of the protests, some of the walks. We had that version down here in Baton Rouge, and it kind of drew some criticism of how some of the coaches here in Baton Rouge handled that. Would you describe how his teammates talk about him as one of those leaders on and off the field?
I sense someone who really grew in a leadership role from the summertime event they had, and then into the fall. You could just tell, and as was the case throughout college football, everything we did this fall was virtual. So we would do these news conferences, but you weren't physically in the same place as those being interviewed. I would think anyone could look up the Clemson, the peaceful on-campus protests they had in June. And I think all involved with the football program and the university community had a very positive reaction to that, because it gave the opportunity for the players from many different backgrounds to express themselves, and for those in the community to take part during the very difficult pandemic times, but they still had a good turnout in a safe setting. And Mike Jones, a fellow named Cornell Powell, who is moving on to the NFL, just had a great final season at wide receiver. Those guys were among those front and center and leading that, along with Trevor Lawrence and some others. And I think the leadership you would see on the various videos and the writing of that did a very good job in getting that all put together. And then I think Mike Jones grew off of that. I just got the sense, and I think I'm accurate in this, that he really did evolve into more of a team leader from the year before.